Good people of God and friends, you are welcome to the Inspired Word Outreach. Today I will be speaking to you about how you can build your faith and trust in God. I want you to understand that no matter what you have experienced or passing through currently, and you are thinking that God has forsaken you, and you are thinking that God is being unfair to you, I want you to know that God works in different ways that man do not understand. All you need is three good things. One is patience, and two is faith, and the last one is trust in God. Today I will be discussing with you on how you can build your faith and trust in God. And we'll be citing good example from the book of Daniel chapter 3. We are going you on your own spare time, you are going to read from verse 1 to the last verse of Daniel chapter 3. I'm going to pick some few chapters from this book to tell you on how you can build your faith. Now turn with me into the book of Daniel chapter 3. Now we are going to start from verse 12. But on your own spare time, read from verse 1 to the last verse. In verse 12 it says, that there are certain Jews whom thou hast set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not regarded thee. They serve not the gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. In verse 13, look at what happened. Then Nebuchadnezzar, in his rage and fury, commanded to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then they were brought, these men, before the king. In verse 14, Nebuchadnezzar answered and said unto them, Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods, nor worship the golden image which I have set up? In verse 15 it says, Now if ye be ready, that at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kind of music, ye shall fall down and worship the image which I have made. Well, if ye worship not, ye shall be cast into the same hour into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. And who is that God that shall deliver you out of my hands? Nebuchadnezzar was so confident that there is no God that can deliver Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego from his fury, from his anger. Now what happened? In verse 16, look at what this young man replied and said. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful to answer you and answer thee in this matter. Now, we are not careful to answer thee in this matter. If it be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of thy hand, O king. Now they went further to say something. I want you to listen carefully. But if not, be it known unto thee, O king, that we will not serve thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. He said, our God is able to deliver us from your hands, O king. But if our God chose, if our God decides not to deliver us, that they are ready to perish, and they will not bow down to the gods or the golden image that the king have set up. Now I want you to look at the faith of these three young men. And I want you to see how they are exercising their trust in God. They trust that God will surely deliver them. But one thing about God is that God is God. He can choose to do something and he can choose not to do something, and you cannot question him. And that's why they made a clause that if our God refused to deliver us, that let it be known unto you, Nebuchadnezzar, we will not bow down to this golden image. In other words, they are ready to die for what they believe. And what is their belief? God has commanded them that they should not bow down to any graven image. And this is a commandment from God. They are ready to obey to the latter, even if it costs their lives. So you could say that these men they were exercising their faith in God. And not only exercising their faith in God, they also trust in God, that God is able to deliver them. Now, let's see what happened. Let's see what happened. In verse 19, the Bible said, "Then there was Nebuchadnezzar full of fury, and the form of his visage was changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Therefore he spake and commanded that they should heat the furnace 7 times more than it was to be heated." In verse 20, "And he commanded most mighty men that they were in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and cast them into the burning fiery furnace." In verse 21, "Then these men were bounded in their coats, their hosen, and their hats, and their other garments, and were cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, because the king's command was urgent and the furnace exceeding hot, the flame of the fire slew these men that took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down bound in the midst of the burning fiery furnace." What amazing thing. These 3 young men fell into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. But the heat, the flame from the furnace, slay these giant men who threw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego into the burning fiery furnace. What are you thinking? That they got burnt to ashes, right? Now let us go further and see what really happened. In verse 24 it said, "Then Nebuchadnezzar the king was astonished." Something happened that made the king to be what? Astonished. "And rose up in haste, and spake and said unto his counselors, Did not we cast 3 men bound in the midst of the fire? They answered and said unto the king, True, O king. He answered and said, Lo, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt, nor and the fourth, and the form of the fourth is like the Son of God. Then Nebuchadnezzar came near to the mouth of the burning fiery furnace and spake and said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, ye servants of the Most High God, come forth and come hither." It is amazing. These men, they were not afraid of the king, because they know that there is a king who is far above this king Nebuchadnezzar, and that is God. And he has given them a commandment not to bow down to any graven image. And they obey this commandment even when it costs their life, because they trust in God to deliver them. And they even made a clause that if God refused to deliver them, they will still obey the commandments of God. So that's why I said earlier that no matter what you have experienced or passing through right now, and you're thinking that God has forsaken you, don't ever think that way, because God has not forsaken you. God knows what He's doing. Okay? And He's going to deliver you at the right time, and He's going to save you. Just as He did to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. It was not difficult for God to shut the mouth of the king and stop those giant men from throwing Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego into the burning fiery furnace. But He allowed them to be thrown into the burning fiery furnace. And then He proved to Nebuchadnezzar that He is the God that is able to deliver from fire. Nebuchadnezzar was surprised to see 4 men, and the 4th one was like the Son of God in the midst of the burning fiery furnace. And these 4 men, they were not hurt by the fire in any way, in any form. Not even their garments got burnt or met in any way, in any form. They were intact, including their clothing that they were putting on, even their sandal, everything was so intact. And the king was amazed. And he asked that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego should come out of the burning fiery furnace. These young men came out, and it was amazing. I want to jump down to verse 28. Now, this is what happened. Then Nebuchadnezzar spake and said, Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and delivered his servant that trusted in him, and have changed the king's word, and yielded their bodies, that they might not serve nor worship any god except their own God. Therefore I make a decree that every people, nation, and language which speak anything amiss against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be cut in pieces, and their houses shall be made a dunghill, because there is no other God that can deliver after this sort. Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon. Okay, so the king made a decree that if anyone speak anything against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, such a person will be cut in pieces, and their places will be made a dunghill. So you could see here that the king came to realize that it's only the God who made the heavens and the earth, whose name is Jehovah, that is able to deliver after this kind of trial. There's no other God. There is no other God except the God who made the heavens and the earth. And he will surely deliver you if you exercise your faith and trust in him. This is the message of faith and trust in God for you today. Do well to share this video if you find it useful to your friends, your family. Let them also learn how to build their faith from the example of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And let them also learn to trust in the only true God who is able to deliver them from all trials and from all troubles and from all persecutions. Don't forget, if you are not yet subscribed to this channel and you are not following us, do well to subscribe to our channel and follow us. God bless you till we meet again in the next video. In Jesus Christ's name. Amen.